Good morning. Welcome. You're right in time for Morning Express. As always, we're glad you could join us. For the next 3 hours, we'll get to inform you about the latest news making headlines. As you've just seen, a lot has been covered in today's dailies. Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard, going big with that story on the borrowing issues that our population is currently dealing with. 1.34 billion Kenya shillings borrowed per day from Fuliza between April and September 2021. Grim statistics, even in the background of signs of recovery as the economy is growing. That's according to the latest report in this particular quarter of the year. So we'll definitely try and delve deeper into the economic side of this particular report, even as we take a look at the politics of intolerance. Just yesterday, we saw ghastly scenes of pre-election violence, specifically in Kisumu, where Deputy President William Ruto's motorcade was stoned. And just when we thought we had got it right, following his fast day trip, which was not marred by any violence, this time round it raises more questions in terms of the political mobilization aspects when this particular tours happen. According to the police, they had informed the deputy president that the security matters were quite urgent, but the DP definitely went on with his functions. We'll try and delve deeper into those stories and more. Welcome to the broadcast once again. My name is Jesse Rogers. Join us for the next 3 hours as we put context into various matters. And as I mentioned, we'll start with the papers, then later on we'll have a discussion on some of the news-making headlines in today's dailies. And it being Thursday, we'll take a look at social issues. When we talk about faith and what we believe in, the Bible is quite instrumental around this. But today we'll have a panel informed by a lawyer who wants to change some aspects of your Bible. Find out which aspects, even though he will be challenged by a pastor right here in studio to actually put context into what he believes. Okay, so as we get to kickstart the show, let's begin with the latest on the international scene right now, just to acclimatize with what's happening internationally. We could begin with Rwanda. Rwanda Today covering extensively. One of the major stories covered there, touching on agriculture. Farmers cite costs, dry season for persistent milk shortage. And there you have it, farmers, extra water bills for 40 to 60% per cow daily, 40 to 60 liters per cow daily, while grass is estimated at that particular price. It's a high cost, especially when it comes to agriculture, which is the backbone in most African countries. 1,000 cross into Uganda, fleeing the DRC fighting. Unfortunate turn of events in DRC, but Uganda is hosting around 1.5 million refugees, more than any other country in Africa. And we definitely need to focus on the state of security in the region. Tigray rebels raped and beat women, and victims of TPLF fighters were gang raped. Victims say, rather, TPLF fighters gang raped her while her children aged 9 and 10 wept. Unfortunate news from Ethiopia, even as international media houses struggle to cover the latest that is happening within the country. We'll definitely keep you informed about what you need to know from Ethiopia. But let's cross over to Tanzania right now. The Citizen covering extensively. Barclays Bank ordered to pay Tanzania Roads Agency 5.5 billion. That's the latest from the High Court. Find out more about that particular ruling, even as Zanzibar seeks stakeholders' views on cryptocurrencies, where the revolutionary government of Zanzibar is seeking stakeholders' views on digital currencies whose uptake is gaining momentum around the world. That's the latest in terms of economy. 725 have died from COVID-19 since its first outbreak in Tanzania. More details on the health situation in that country. But over to Uganda, we begin with one story touching on Ethiopia, where UN says Ethiopia detains 72 World Food Programme drivers in war-hit north. That's according to the UN spokesperson, who said this new detentions occurred at the capital of Afar province on the only functional road leading into famine-threatened Tigray. More details from Ethiopia right there, but it seems humanitarian aid might be hampered from accessing those who need it most in the Tigray region. And it begs the question, is humanitarian aid being used as an instrument of war? But that's the latest from Uganda. Let's cross over to CNN World News. Surprise climate pledge, where the US and China agreed to ramp up their climate ambitions just days before the end of the COP26 summit in Glasgow. But Beijing doesn't budge on goals. Well, more details from that particular conference that was happening in Glasgow, Scotland, on the latest in terms of what superpower countries, including African countries, are actually pledging in order to curb climate change. The latest from the US, judge rejects another Trump attempt to slow down documents from going to House January 6th committee. That's the latest on that particular probe into the former president. More on the NBA, find out what exactly is happening on that front, even as they cover other stories, as you can see right there on your screen. Just be informed, as they say, information is power, you know. Okay, so that's the latest on the international scene. Let's get closer home. A lot happening, as I hinted on the front page of the Standard and the Daily Nation. But let's begin with a couple of stories that have been making headlines in the course of the last 24 hours. We begin with KEMSA right now and the takeover concerns that are actually quite rife. The recent reforms announced by the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency's Board of Directors is eliciting more reactions. The Kenya Institute of Supplies Management has defended their members at KEMSA, who now risk being fired. The body is calling on KEMSA to involve them in decisions and investigations involving their workers, since members of staff who were recently sent home from the warehouse and the procurement departments are their members. The institute, through its chairperson, further offered to mediate, since it is the body tasked with registering, licensing and regulating all supplies practitioners in Kenya.
Petition the board of KEMSA to engage all stakeholders, especially KISM, as the key custodian and regulators of supply chain practitioners. We are very well placed to provide the necessary technical expertise towards transforming KEMSA into a very efficient organization. We also note with concern that all the staff that have been suspended are from the warehouse, the procurement departments, and they are all KISM members. Actually, they are our members. Based on this, we would like to be involved in the decisions and the investigations involving our members, with a view to subjecting them to our internal disciplinary mechanisms, which is already functional where that's applicable. We are also very keen to also understand the criteria that was used to determine who lives and who remains at the institution, because we advocate for a systematic, structured, transparent and equitable process to ensure that justice is seen to be done and fairness.
Moving on to a story that has made headlines in today's dailies, where Deputy President William Ruto's Day 2 tour of Nyanza ran into chaos at Kondele as a section of the public pelted his motorcade with stones, forcing police to use tear gas to disperse the out-of-control crowd. While Ruto accused political leaders of organizing youth into the violent act, police said in a statement that it had warned the deputy president of a potential chaotic scene in Kondele and advised him to avoid the area in which he defied. According to police, the fracas witnessed in Kondele was due to alleged distribution of campaign logistical funds among local groups who engaged in stone throwing and other unruly behavior. Kevin Ogutu reports on Ruto's chaotic Day 2 in Nyanza.
It is the convoy that would kickstart Deputy President William Ruto's Day 2 tour of Nyanza region in Kisumu County, just a day after meeting professionals. He made various stops at Ojola, Kisian and then Kamas, where he was surprised at a remarkable number of UDA supporters.
Mumejipanga na wheelbarrow. Akijiji watu ni waajabu.
But it was his journey from Kisumu bus park to Kondele, the epitome of Kisumu politics, that would prove to be a daunting task. Chaos ensued as it became evident that there was a crowd within that was opposed to Ruto's visit to Kondele. Stones on one side and tear gas canisters from the police on the other, Ruto had a difficult time addressing the crowd.
Hakuna haja ya kupigana. Please. Hakuna haja ya kupigana. Tunataka tuelewane. Kenya ni yetu sisi wote.
But when some semblance of quiet was realized, Ruto spoke to those he thought were responsible for the chaos.
We must get rid of the leaders who hire young people to throw stones. And we want to tell the leaders who have organized young people to throw stones. Shame on them. Tunaelewana?
In a statement, the National Police Service said that based on intelligence gathered, there was tension within Kondele owing to alleged distribution of campaign funds among local groups and was shared with Deputy President's team with recommendation to skip the affected area during the tour. According to police, the agitated crowds engaged in stone throwing and other unruly behavior. Ruto's communication secretary David Mugonyi in a statement said that the statement by the National Police Service, which carelessly profiles people in regrettable terms, underscores the fact that they had intelligence on the criminal conspiracy to perpetrate lawlessness in broad daylight and ample opportunity to stop it and facilitate a peaceful event, but consciously opted to engage in political mischief instead. He says that at no point was there deployment of campaign finances as alleged by the police. KANU chairman and Baringo Senator Gideon Moi took to Twitter to condemn the violence witnessed in Kondele, and I quote, "We have witnessed in dismay the senseless violence in Kondele today, characterized by pelting of DP William Ruto's convoy with stones during his visit to Kisumu. I condemn these acts of violence and reject them in all their manifestations, whether real or stage-managed." Despite the bottleneck at Kondele, Ruto went on to tour parts of Migori County. Kevin Ogutu, KTN News.
Quite unfortunate scenes, even as we clamor for a mature democracy in the country. These are scenes that might take us a step back. So we'll definitely get and canvass that particular story later on. But let's take a look at what the ODM party leader, Raila Odinga, asked Kenyans. And he said this just yesterday. He asked Kenyans to be tolerant of each other and embrace peace as the 2022 general elections draw closer, without referring to the incidents that Deputy President William Ruto faced while campaigning in Kondele area, Kisumu County. Raila Odinga gave an example of how he has been freely campaigning in the Mount Kenya region, a region that has for long been perceived to be hostile to him. Meanwhile, ODM presidential contender Jimmy Wanjigi has insisted that he is still ready to face Raila at the party's presidential nominations and that the exercise should be free and fair. Chris Thyro with the report.
ODM party leader Raila Odinga was at the Orange House to receive defectors from various political parties, including PNU and ANC from Meru and Tharaka Nithi counties. The defectors included former legislators from the region, as well as those aspiring to compete for elective positions in the coming general election. With the meeting coming only hours after the campaign trail of Deputy President William Ruto was disrupted at Kondele area in Kisumu County, Odinga asked Kenyans to build a culture of tolerance.
Si Kenya ni Wakenya wote. Kwa hivyo kila Mkenya ana haki ya kuzuru kila mahali, na vile vile Wakenya kuwapendana. Manake hiyo ndio wale waanzilishi wa taifa letu walitaka.
Without making any reference to the chaos in Kondele, Odinga stated that every Kenyan had a right to traverse the country and be heard freely.
Watu wa kutoka huko ziwani huko hawezi kupanda milima. Mimi nikawaambia mimi jina yangu ingine naitwa Tinga Tinga. Na Tinga Tinga na wheelbarrow gani naweza kupanda milima haraka.
Despite the numerous campaign meetings and all indications that he will be on the presidential ballot, Raila still insists that he is yet to declare his next move. But even as he campaigns, he is still facing competition from his close ally and ODM presidential contender, businessman Jimmy Wanjigi. Wanjigi was meeting ODM chairmen from 12 counties across the country with an intention of solidifying his support base at the grassroots level.
We are in this to make sure that the party is stronger, not weaker. We are in this to ensure that this party succeeds in its quest for power. And in that, we are not going to second guess anybody's demand. It is our right as members of this party to demand that which we are saying, free, fair and transparent nomination for presidency.
Wanjigi has had to brush shoulders with some of the party officials who claim he has been undermining his party boss by opening parallel party offices. Meanwhile, a section of young parliamentarians from various political parties and support the handshake have resolved to form a youthful caucus to fight for the rights of the youth.
We've had a discussion around young people that has become part and parcel of campaign slogans. And the youths of this country are also looking upon leaders who can give them directions.
So we want to go and have candid discussions. They might not be rallies. They're going to be actual discussions and trying to talk about the future of our youth. What is it that really works for them? Which plan suits them? How do they position themselves as we head towards this very momentous period of the next general election?
Na hatuwezi kuwa katika mazungumzo na maamuzi iwapo sisi tutakuwa kule kando kando. Ile Kiingereza tunasema periphery. Yani tunakuwa kule kando, we are not in the core. Lazima pia sisi tuwe katikati ya kuendeleza ili azimio la umoja na amani.
The caucus, which is aligned to Azimio la Umoja, is expected to be meeting on a weekly basis before they roll out country-wide campaigns. Chris Dairu, KTN News.
Okay, shifting focus, members of the Mount Kenya Foundation are set to meet elected leaders and opinion shapers from the 11 pastoralist counties in a bid to deliberate on a smooth transition from President Uhuru Kenyatta's leadership. The foundation, chaired by former Equity Bank chairperson Peter Munga, aims at consolidating support from the northeastern region, which almost has 2.5 million registered voters, so that they can speak in one voice on which presidential contender they will support come next year, as well as assurances that their social and economic interests are catered for.
Not even require a binocular to see Mandera from there, to see Garissa from there. If your eyesight is still very good, you can see Lamu and Turkana. So we have our brothers and sisters from those regions, all the way from Turkana, Mandera, Moyale, Marsabit, Wajir, Tana River, did I say Mandera? And Garissa. So these are the people that we have invited for a luncheon tomorrow, so that we can be able to discuss what is common to all of us, and discuss about the economy, about our business, because people from Mount Kenya North are basically, although you call them pastoralists, they're actually business people.
I think it's a honor. It's going to be a great meeting. We are all familiar with the terrain, or let me call it the geographical distribution of the people of Kenya. Tomorrow, it's going to be a very interactive session. It's unprecedented. It has never happened before. It used to happen actually disjointed in a disjointed way. But I think for the first time, the people from the Asal region, from 11 counties, are going to meet their brothers and sisters from the Mount Kenya region. And I'm sure it's going to be unprecedented in the sense that historical issues, convergence issues, A number of development issues will be discussed. So I take this opportunity to thank the group.
Still in politics, Kenyans can now breathe a sigh of relief on party membership after the Office of Registrar of Political Parties launched an integrated political parties management system that will enable Kenyans to join, leave and check their membership status in political parties. And as Daniel Kariuki reports, the launch is part of the ORPP's 2020 to 2025 strategic plan and in readiness for the 2022 general election.
Few weeks ago, Kenyans were up in arms following revelations they had been registered as members of political parties without their knowledge. Kenyans confirmed their membership status through an online portal on eCitizen, a one-stop shop for government services shared out by the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. This prompting the Registrar Anderito to intervene, saying that her office was piloting the online service to enable the public to verify their political party membership status. But this could be a thing of the past with the launch of the Integrated Political Parties Management System, IPPMS.
The office continues to upgrade and integrate the system to better serve the political parties and the general public as well as to be up to speed with emerging technologies and change.
We appeal to Kenyans because we have provided for an avenue as guided by the Data Commissioner to opt out. The best way of doing it is opting out without much drama.
IPPMS has been integrated with the eCitizen platform and will be accessed free of charge. According to the Office of the ORPP, IPPMS was temporarily deactivated after many Kenyans who accessed the platform protested being listed as members of parties without their consent, raising questions over the security of citizens' data.
After we received complaints, we sat with the Office of Registrar of Political Parties, and we got an assurance that those who had complained to us, 300 of them were deleted from the register.
We will take all these data use very seriously and ensure that people are only using your data where it is allowed.
The IPPMS is also designed to pull in young people in the political process as they are widely connected to technology. However, a section of parties say that the system requires additional security by virtue of direct link to the electoral process.
But there needs to be revision of legislation so that any party that complies can enjoy some taxpayers' funding so that they can run activities.
If one is applying to join or leave a party, both ORPP and the party are notified and the party shall take action. However, the party can decide whether to admit or reject an applicant. Meanwhile, the Registrar of Political Parties has unveiled the ORPP's 2020 to 2025 strategic plan. The plan focuses on registration and documentation of political parties, regulation of the political parties, strengthening institutional capacity and political parties' participation in elections, among others. Daniel Kariuki, KTN News.
Well, even as the Office of the Registrar is trying to ensure sanity in parties, IEBC just yesterday rejected the nomination rules for 89 parties in order to ensure credible polls. We'll get to discuss about that and much more right after this short break. But allow me to hint at the panelists joining me in studio. It has been a day when the youth in the country are perhaps have painted a bad picture in terms of being used by politicians to instigate violence, especially with what happened in Kondele. So we have a youthful panel, perhaps to break into the psyche of the youthful voter in the country. Is it a case of stage-managed violence or real violence right there? We'll try and delve deeper into those issues. I'm joined in studio right now by Askun Kamili, who's a political analyst, quite youthful as well, Kariuki Ngunjiri, analyst, as well as Solomon Kuria, who is an analyst. A youthful panel, so we'll get to discuss about the matters affecting the youth in the country in the backdrop of the scenes that characterized Deputy President William Ruto's day two tour of the Nyanza region. Stay with Morning Express. We'll be back in a few.